What is going on, guys? Vanity here, and welcome to the top 10 hidden Ableton features every producer needs to know. Tip 1. Show device slots. Looking at my Ableton window, do you notice anything different? What about when I click this button? You can see that it gives me a list of all the devices contained on each channel, as well as being able to toggle them all on and off. This is going to improve the speed and workflow for all live users, and is really something that should have been added into Ableton by now. The way to install this is really simple. You need an options text file, which I'll provide in the description. I'll also show you where to put this text file at the end of the video. Tip 2. Arm on select. Now that options text file that you're going to install at the end of the video has a few different Ableton commands in it. The second is an arm on select. You can see here that every time I select a new channel, it's being armed, ready for recording. This is really useful for myself when I'm using push, as I can quickly flick between channels, recording new sections with ease. Tip 3. Map to all siblings. This one is going to save any macro users a lot of time. I've got a bunch of kick drum samples here for my Cape Tornado sample pack, all inside a drum rack. Now normally, if I wanted to map the volumes of each of these samples to a macro parameter, I'd have to do it one by one for each sample. But now, I can right click on the volume and select map to macro 1 as usual, and then right click again, and we have this new option at the bottom, map to all siblings. This will map the volume of everything in the drum rack to this macro 1 control here. Super useful and saves a ton of time. Tip 4. Auto populate plugin parameters. The last command that options text file has added is auto populating a plugin's parameter. So if I go to a third party plugin and view the parameters, you can see that they're all here, without me having to set each one up manually. It's pulled out all of the mappable parameters available on that plugin, so that they're all available for you to use and map to. Tip 5. Quickly select plugins. When you have a long plugin chain in Ableton like this, sometimes it can be a hassle scrolling through them all to find that one plugin that you're after. Now obviously you can move this little bar here, but there is a much faster way. Right clicking on this little box and select the plugin you're after. Tip 6. Shortcuts for changing grid sizes. So when I'm working on drums in audio, very often I'll be changing the grid size to fit around some of the beat patterns. We all know that you can right click and change it like this, but there is a faster way using keyboard shortcuts. Hold down the command button while pressing either 1 or 2 will change the grid size like shown. You can also press 3 to switch to triplets. Now the one I like is 4, as it turns the grid completely off, enabling you to play sounds wherever you wish. All these shortcuts also work in the clip view, which is helpful when working with any kind of MIDI. Tip 7. XY. So we're all used to seeing this black XY box whenever we open up a third party plugin, but I've never actually seen anybody use it. Now it can be super useful, especially for automating effects. The XY configuration allows you to mix between 2 separate parameters on that plugin. Now if you remember on tip 4, we had the auto populate plugin parameters, and you can see here that because they're already populated, we have a long list of them ready to use. Tip 8. Freeze to audio. This one has actually made a pretty big difference for me. Like a lot of producers, I was in the habit of rendering everything out to audio once it had been finalised and I was happy with it. Rather than exporting it out, I set up a track configuration that records the MIDI from one channel into audio on another. This worked well for me until I found an even faster way. I've got my MIDI here. Now say that I'm happy with it and I want to render it to audio. Right click on the channel and select freeze track. Then hold down Alt on your keyboard to copy and drag this onto an audio channel. Now you have that MIDI clip in audio in around 3 seconds. Tip 9. Projects. The biggest thing that I've always loved about Ableton is that you have everything you need in one window. You never need to leave the program and disturb the creative workflow. Everything is ready to access without searching through layers of submenus. This tip took that one step further for me, and it's having your projects in your browse window here. The reason you would do this, besides being able to quickly load up previous projects, is that you can actually click into the projects and pull out whole channels of sounds complete with all the plugins and settings still saved. Now this is great for producers who have a ton of projects with ideas in, because you can quickly and easily access them all and pull in sounds and instruments from past tracks to build something new. Tip 10. Saving default tracks and projects. This is probably the most well known about in this list, but it's still super important and can save you a lot of time if you're not already using it. So for example, do you use an EQ and compressor on every audio track? Rather than adding them in every time, simply add them to a blank audio channel, right click and select Save as Default Track. This works the same for MIDI channels. You can then build up a combination of default MIDI and audio channels to create a template for your projects. Alright, so to install the options text file, go up to your taskbar at the top, click on the Go tab, hold down Alt and you'll see the library folder appear. From there, navigate to Preferences, Ableton, then drop the options file in whichever version of Ableton Live you're currently using. For Windows users, the file path is Documents and Settings, Username, Application Data, Ableton, Live, Preferences. Once it's in there, restart Live and you'll be good to go. That's it for this one, guys. I hope you learned some new tricks for Ableton. As always, any questions, drop them in the comments below. I do respond to each comment you guys leave me. Let me know how many of these tips and tricks you already knew too. Remember to hit that bell below, next to the subscribe button, to be notified when I've uploaded a new video. Thank you, and until next time, I'm out. Peace.